Chapter 11. Oyaki emerged from the smoke-clouded hut and walked away slowly, dragging his feet and shambling over things like a drunken man. The hut belonged to Jerry. She had no husband, for her man had died years back after an attack of strange illness. She was now a middle-aged woman for whom life had lost much of its attraction. Having no children of her own, she readily welcomed into her house any young people and children. A little while before, her life had been illuminated by Muthoni, who had turned to her refuge. Life was not kind to her. Muthoni was now dead. Oyaki walked aimlessly along the ridge. He wondered what Jerry would do, for she would no doubt be blamed for the death of Muthoni. Oyaki could see her face, which had become all at once wrinkled when she heard the sad news. The cattle returning home did not make much noise, and there were no children prancing about. But at times she spoke of Nyambura. Oyaki knew Muthoni loved her sister. He remembered a day soon after Nyambura had begun to visit Muthoni. He had entered the hut and found the two girls arguing. "I am still a Christian. See, a Christian in the tribe. Look, I am a woman and I will grow big and healthy in the tribe." Even after he had entered, she rambled on. She had not known how fast she was wasting away. She did not last many hours after they arrived in Siriana. Oyaki could still remember her last words as they approached the hospital. "Oyaki," she turned to him, "tell Nyambura I see Jesus, and I am a woman, beautiful in the tribe." She had died clinging to that image, to that obsession which had led her from Makoyo to Kameno. Who knew what it was? The only question which people had asked was, why did she do it? Why? Why? And even for Oyaki the question remained, why? Darkness came and found Oyaki wandering like a lost spirit. Had he too been taken by that dream? It was her secret, and she had died for it. He reached his own hut, recently built for him, to meet the lamp and went to bed. He could not sleep. All through the night, he kept on asking, why? He did not know whom he was asking. Joshua heard of the death of Muthoni without a sign of emotion on the face. A slight tremor in the voice when he spoke was the only thing that betrayed him. He did not ask Miriamu when she died or how Miriamu had learned of the facts. Miriamu wept even more when she saw the impassive face. To him, Muthoni had ceased to exist on the very day she had sold herself to the devil. Muthoni had turned her head and longed for the cursed land. Lot's wife had done the same thing, and she had been turned to stone, a rock of salt to be forever a stern warning to others. The journey to the New Jerusalem with God was not easy. It was beset with temptation, but Joshua was determined to triumph, to walk with a brisk step, his eyes on the cross. Muthoni had been an outcast. Anything cast here on earth would also be cast in heaven. Let that be a warning to those who rebelled against their parents and the laws of God. He beheld this in silence. No longer would the voice be heard. No longer would he give the warning. He had done his work. Had he not foreseen this drama? Had he not seen the estrangement between father and daughter, son and father, because of the new faith? This was a punishment to Joshua. It was also a punishment to the hills. It was a warning to all to stick to the ways of the ridges, to the ancient wisdom of the land, its ritual and song. Would Joshua listen? Would Kabonyi hearken to the voice of angry Murungu? Shege feared for them. He feared for those who had embraced strange gods. Would the ridges listen and rise up together? Makoyo and Kameno still antagonized each other. Makoyo was now the home of the Christians, while Kameno remained the home of all that was beautiful in the tribe. Who would ever bring them together? The death of Muthoni did not augur well for the future. It might bring further strife. Shege did not like the way his son had become involved in the affair. He feared for him, but he admired Oyaki, his figure and his youth. He could not say anything to him. Already, he found that he could not really understand his son. Would he be corrupted by Siriana? Again, he felt his bones creep. He touched his grey hairs with a sigh and meditatively watched the dying day as he sat on his three-legged stool in front of his hut. He questioned the wisdom of having sent his son to the mission place. Would he, Shege, be punished like Joshua? What of the prophecy? He thought of going to seek a man of his generation with whom he could talk things over. He stood up. The cold evening wind made him shake a little. He was old. Old. He sighed again, but his sigh was not due to age or the realization that his time was gone. It was the sigh of many who that night and weeks after talked of Modoni's death. The fact was that nobody knew for sure what the death portended. The death of Modoni forever confirmed the barbarity of Yokoyo customs. Livingstone, the head of the mission, had always shown reluctance in penetrating the ridges. He had always liked the idea of training some mission boys who could then be sent out to spread the good news. He was now an old man, bald-headed, with a double chin. He had a large pith helmet, of which he was very fond. He rarely removed it from his head, but when he did, the almost sheet-white bald head made a big contrast to the freckled face, hands and feet. Whenever he moved, his knees shook a little, while his tired voice and habit of speech was characterized by a tendency to pronounce R, even when some of the other men and women at the mission would not. His knowledge of Yokoyo language was tolerably good. 25 years' stay at the mission was not such a short period. When he came to the mission, he was full of vigor and certainly full of great expectations. He always looked to a time when his efforts would produce fruits. But as years went on, he realized that he was not making as much progress as he had expected he would. This was a disappointment to a man who had left home for a wild country, fired by a dream of heroism and the vision of many souls won for Christ through his own efforts. His call and his mission had not met with the response he had once hoped for. True, the school and the hospital had expanded a great deal, but these people seemed only interested in education while they paid lip service to salvation. They were entrenched in their blind customs. Children became ill. People believed that they were bewitched. A man died. His body was abandoned without burial. And then this circumcision. It was barbarous. Livingstone was one of those missionaries who thought themselves enlightened. They were determined to learn the customs of the natives and not repeat the mistakes of the missionaries of earlier generations who had caused tribal warfare and civil strife because they could not appreciate the importance of tribal customs. In this spirit, he had attended some of the dances on the eve of circumcision, but he was horrified beyond measure. The songs he heard and the actions he saw convinced him beyond any doubt that these people were immoral through and through. He was thoroughly nauseated and he never went to such another dance. Circumcision had to be rooted out if there was to be any hope of salvation for these people. Livingstone was a man of moderation and advocated gradual methods of eradicating the custom. In spite of pressure by some great enthusiasts, he refused to adopt rash and desperate measures. This was during his early years. But when he saw that this policy of letting things happen gradually had not had the hoped-for results, he began to preach against the custom vigorously. Even then, the full war was not on. Would he eventually give way to pressure? He was growing old. New blood had joined him in Syriana. People would accuse him. He felt cheated by fate. Circumstances were laughing at his old age. But he would show them that the Spirit of the Lord still burned in him. Age did not matter. It was Christ who would be fighting the Prince of Darkness through him. Yes, Christ working in him, making him young in action. Circumcision had now to be fought by all means in their hands. He would count on Joshua and Kabonye to help him. And then a woman came to him. He was in his office and was startled to see her. Martha was one of the staunchest critics of his policy. "Excuse me, Reverend?" "Yes? Do you know the girl who died? Moloni? She was brought by Wayaki and some other mission boys. You don't know her father?" No. "She's the daughter of... Yes? Joshua," she said rather triumphantly. There was a twinkle in her eyes. There was a short space of total silence, and then, "Oh," it was a small groan, almost pathetic, The war was now on. End of chapter 11.